Welcome to the YouTube channel, Think and Read with Renee. The following 3 lessons will take about 50 minutes. You could stop at any time and take a break. The materials that you'll need are your own copy of Dear Mr. Henshaw by Beverly Cleary, something to write with, and that can mean something to doodle with. Your answers to questions can just be in your head. You can draw it like a comic strip, or you can write full sentences and multiple paragraphs. Hi, I'm Renee, the author of the middle grade adventure Mousebones. Early in my career, I interned for a children's book publisher called Heyday Books for Kids in Berkeley, California. One of the things I did as an intern was create something called Teacher Helps, or teacher supplements for the classroom. I made guides and sets of questions so teachers could have lively discussions with students and really dig deep into each book. I remember doing this for nonfiction books like Nature's Alphabet and a story about Humphrey, the real humpback whale who got turned around a bit before heading out to the bay again. The book I've chosen for today is not published by Heyday. Not only is it an award winner by Beverly Cleary, who wrote about the Oregon sisters Beezus and Ramona Quimby, but Dear Mr. Henshaw is a book I revisit every 2 years as a grown-up. It makes me think about life, loss, change, and acceptance, especially before New Year's Eve. You might want to follow along with your own copy of Dear Mr. Henshaw if you're spending a quiet afternoon before the New Year's Eve countdown. As Dana Goya of the National Endowment for the Arts said in the Commonwealth Club of California magazine, the value of reading fiction is that it increases empathy. You walk in the shoes of someone you might never meet. Think along with me by using the thought starter questions I created as you do a close reading of Dear Mr. Henshaw during your winter break. You might just find yourself rereading this book as an adult, because Dear Mr. Henshaw is a thinking kind of book. Tuesday, January 9th. Dear Mr. Pretend Henshaw, my little cheesecake was missing at lunchtime, which made me mad. I guess somebody noticed Joe Kelly's lunch was really mine. When I went to throw my lunch bag in the garbage, Mr. Fridley said, "Cheer up, Leigh, or you'll trip over your lower lip." I said, "How would you feel if somebody was always stealing the good stuff from your lunch?" He said, "What you need is a burglar alarm." A burglar alarm on a lunch bag? I had to laugh at that, but I still wanted my cheesecake. Here are some think aloud comprehension questions. What is unusual about what Leigh gets for lunch? How is this a break from the heavy stuff he's going through? Can you see and taste the cheesecake in your mind? Do you think it's special that Leigh has catering food at school? What might you have done if you had such food? It's meant to be a feast for the eyes at fancy celebrations. Do you think it's a spark of something special in an otherwise normal school day? Let's take a look at the lunchtime alarm and problem solving. Here are some think aloud and comprehension questions. What is important about the lunchtime alarm? How did Leigh solve his problem independently? How did his classmates react? What was a really good outcome? Even though achievement doesn't replace loneliness for his father, what does this accomplish socially? Family changes and financial sacrifices. When families go through change, sometimes there's moving or tough financial sacrifices. What was harder for Leigh and his mom? Dad should be phoning any day now. When I said that at supper, chili out of a can, Mom said for me not to get my hopes up, but I know Dad will remember this time. Mom never really says much about Dad. And when I ask why she divorced him, all she says is, it takes two people to get a divorce. I guess she means the same way it takes two people to have a fight. How did Leigh come to accept that his dad liked this new way and things would not go back to how they were before? Special lunches. Here's your think aloud comprehension questions. What's unusual about what Leigh gets for lunch? I get lonesome. Mom is working overtime at catering because people give a lot of parties this time of year. When I write a book, maybe I'll call it The Great Lunch Bag Mystery because I have a lot of trouble with my lunch bag. Mom isn't so great on cooking roasts and steaks now that Dad is gone, but she makes good lunches with sandwiches on whole wheat bread from the health food store with good filling spread all the way to the corners. Katie sends me these little cheesecakes baked just for me or stuffed mushrooms and little things she calls canapes. Sometimes I get a slice of quiche. Today I was supposed to have a deviled egg. Katie buys the smallest eggs for parties, so half an egg can be eaten in one bite and won't spill on people's carpets. She puts a little curry powder in with the mashed up yolk, which she squirts out of a tube so it looks like a rose. At lunchtime, when I opened my lunch bag, my egg was gone. How is this a break from the heavy stuff Leigh is going through? Can you see and taste the cheesecake in your mind? Do you think it's special that Leigh has catering food in his school lunch? What might you have done if you had such food? It's meant to be a feast for the eyes and at fancy celebrations. Do you think it's a spark of something special in an otherwise normal school day? Lunchtime alarm and problem solving. What is it about the lunchtime alarm that is important to the story? Leigh solves his own problem independently. How does his technique work? How do his classmates react? What was a really good outcome of Leigh solving his problem on his own? Even though achievement doesn't replace or solve Leigh's loneliness for his father, what does this accomplish in Leigh's social life? Tomorrow, I'm going to wrap my lunch bag in a lot of scotch tape so nobody can sneak anything out of it. Let's reflect on the dog passage. There was a funny silence. For a minute, I thought the line was dead. Then I knew something must have happened to my dog. How's Bandit? I asked again, louder, in case Dad might have lost some of the hearing in his left ear from all that wind rushing by. Well, kid, my name is Leigh, I almost yelled. I'm not just some kid you met on the street. Keep your shirt on, Leigh, he said. When I had to stop along with some other truckers to put on chains, I let Bandit out of the cab. I thought he would get right back in because it was snowing so hard. But after I chained up, he wasn't in the cab. Did you leave the door open for him? I asked. Big pause. I could have sworn I did, he said, which meant he didn't. Then he said, I whistled and whistled, but Bandit didn't come. I couldn't wait any longer because the highway patrol was talking about closing Highway 80. I couldn't get stranded up there in the mountains when I had a deadline for delivering a load of TV sets to a dealer in Denver. I had to leave. I'm sorry, kid. Leigh, but that's the way it is. You left Bandit to freeze to death? I was crying from anger. How could he? Bandit knows how to take care of himself, said Dad. I bet dollars to donuts he jumped into another truck that was leaving. I wiped my nose on my sleeve. Why would the driver let him? I asked. Because he thought Bandit was lost, said Dad. And he had to get on with his load before the highway was closed, the same as I did. Couldn't leave a dog to freeze. Monday, February 5th. Yesterday, after I hung up on Dad, I flopped down my bed and cried and swore and pounded my pillow. I felt so terrible about Bandit riding around with a strange trucker, and Dad taking another boy out for pizza, and I was all alone in the house with the mildewed bathroom when it was raining outside, and I was hungry. The worst part of it all was I knew if Dad took someone to a pizza place for dinner, he wouldn't have phoned me at all. No matter what he said, he would have too much fun playing video games. How did this passage about the dog make you feel? Was Leigh's reaction over the top, or do you agree? The dog has a name, but what else does it stand for? The dog represents something. How Leigh's dad treats the dog. What does that say about him? Dad, wait! I yelled and ran out to him. Dad, you keep Bandit. You need him more than I do. Dad hesitated until I said, Please take him. I don't have any way to amuse him. Dad smiled at that and whistled, and Bandit jumped into the cab as if that was what he really wanted to do all along. So long, Leigh, Dad said, and started the motor. Then he leaned out and said, You're a good kid, Leigh. I'm proud of you. I'll try not to let you down. Maybe it was broccoli that brought Dad to Salinas, but he had come the rest of the way because he really wanted to see us. He had really missed us. I felt sad and a whole lot better at the same time. Closing. Signing off. As we wrap up our reading of Dear Mr. Henshaw, take a moment to notice how you feel. Do you feel a mixture of sad and glad? Me too. Dad looked tired and sad in a way I'd never seen him look before. While Mom fussed around making coffee, I showed him the burglar alarm I had made for my lunchbox. He worked it a couple of times and said, I always knew I had a smart kid. Mom was taking such a long time making coffee, I felt I had to entertain Dad, so I showed him my yearbook and what I had written. He read it and said, Funny, but I still think about that day every time I haul grapes to a winery. I'm glad you remember it too. That made me feel good. He looked at me a while, as if he expected to see, I don't know what. Then he rumpled my hair and said, You're smarter than your old man. That embarrassed me. I didn't know how to answer. Have you found someone else? Asked Dad. No, said Mom. I think about you a lot on the long hauls, said Dad, especially at night. I haven't forgotten you, said Mom. Bonnie, is there any chance? Dad began. No, said Mom in a sad, soft voice. There isn't a chance. Why not? Asked Dad. Too many lonely days and nights, not knowing where you were. Too much waiting for phone calls you forgot to make because you were whooping it up in some truck stop, said Mom. Too many boring Saturday nights in some noisy tavern. Too many broken promises. Leigh feels like a real person, doesn't he? Even though he is make-believe. When you spend time immersed in a story as a reader, you come to care about the characters, especially when the author does a really good job. This story's ending, like the ending of Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt, has a bittersweet quality. The author does not leave the reader in sadness. There is an upside, but there's also a pang of wishing, isn't there? You're glad the main character grew, changed, and moved forward, but at the same time, like a skinned knee, you can feel the main character's emotional pain. Congratulations. It's because you have graduated to the next level of being a reader. You're not just reading to get through the pages. You're studying character. You're analyzing character. You feel and get it because the author was telling you a story, not lecturing you, but you learned something universal, didn't you? Share your thoughts with another reader. Talk about what struck you, what you learned, or how you felt. And join me next time in Think and Read with Renee for another deep dive into a book that'll make you think, feel, and grow as a reader.